looked, I was like, oh my God, that's him. I know it. I can feel it. And he, at that moment, had looked at me in my face too.
She is talking about a horrific encounter with the stepfather convicted of raping her as a teenager.
And imagine the shock of seeing him when she thought he was still in prison.
She did not know the state set him free despite laws requiring victims to be notified.
7 Action News reporter Jennifer Bisram is taking on this case tonight to find out what went wrong.
Right now, that convicted rapist, who's also a former cop, is being held temporarily at the Macomb County Jail as the final say on whether he goes back to prison to finish his sentence is being determined. And in the midst of all of this is his victim, now in her 30s. She says she feels like she's reliving the horrific nightmare all over again and is scared now more than ever.
She was raped, tortured, and traumatized for years.
About 12 years old. Then he started raping me, and he brutalized me, and he held me as prisoner, and every day I was with him.
Now in her 30s, Tiffany Henderson is forced once again to talk about Richard McBrayer, her stepfather, who she says took her innocence away, changing her life forever.
He had a gun on him all the time. He was also a police officer, and he shot that gun many times in front of me.
This recorded conversation between Tiffany and her stepdad is what helped put an end to all the torture.
I want to tell my mom.
You can't.
Why?
I'll go to jail. For life.
But you did this.
The 59-year-old would be sentenced to 20 to 40 years in 1994 for 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct, and so far has served 22.
I really believed that he was still in prison.
But this past Easter, Tiffany got the shock of her life as she was driving with her teenage daughter in the car with her.
I'm thinking to myself, wow, that really looks like him. I'm like, it couldn't be, he's in jail. So I'm like, okay, it's red, I gotta look again, I have to. And so I looked, I was like, oh my God, that's him, I know it, I can feel it. And he, at that moment, had looked at me in my face too. He knew it was me.
With the chills down her spine and fear in her heart for both her and her daughter, she rushed home and tried to figure out what was going on.
Unbeknownst to her, the board had released her rapist without advising her. Not only that, they released him to her community where she lives. The Crime Victim Rights Act requires the parole board to provide notification to any crime victim before it releases any convict.
We went to the Michigan Department of Corrections for answers. They tell us letters and automated phone messages are always sent to victims notifying them if a convicted felon is being paroled. And in Tiffany's case, they did just that. But Tiffany maintains she never got word.
Were you notified that he was going to be out on parole?
No, I was not. I want him back in prison.
I think it's beyond important that the Department of Corrections takes steps to ensure that these crime victims receive notifications of the prisoners being released into the street.
Several motions were then filed by Tiffany's attorney, and the decision to release McBrayer was then reversed by a Macomb County judge. According to the opinion and order by the judge, the ruling comes after recent reports show McBrayer blames Tiffany for what happened and admits to having an attraction for young teenage girls. The decision is rare here in the state of Michigan, since it means returning a parolee back to prison despite no parole violation.
The judge did agree with me that he remains a menace to public safety.
Still, sending McBrayer back to prison won't be easy. We've learned the Attorney General's office, which represents the parole board, is planning on challenging the decision, a move that could keep McBrayer out of jail, on the streets, and among children every day. We are waiting to hear from the AG's office about their decision to appeal.
I would like to see them put themselves in the shoes of the victim.
In the meantime, this mother says she's going to continue to fight for her daughter, and families here in Michigan.
He murdered the kid that I was and the woman that I would be and where I could be now. He did that to me.
And Tiffany's attorney says an emergency motion has been filed to keep McBrayer locked up during the appellate process. Otherwise, he can walk a free man until a decision is made. Now, keep in mind, the appellate process can take anywhere from a few months to a few years. We will certainly keep following this case and bring you any updates as they become available. Jennifer Bisram, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you.